Welcome back to the Wolverine podcast. I'm John Borton here with my good friend and almost a co-host at this point, Tom Crawford. Tom is with us very frequently. You know him well from Press Pass with Jack Ebling on Sunday nights, Fox 47, and also the founder of the Crawford Podcasting Network. These days, Tom, who is a resident of East Lansing, Michigan, has his hands full dealing with the back and forth that goes on and is gaining steam even with regard to Michigan State, and the post-game scenario. Tom, first of all, welcome back to the podcast. As
great
always.
to be back. It's great to be back.
And now, here's what we've learned: true things, and we've learned goofy, phony, made-up garbage things this week. Let's talk about, first of all, let's start off with the true things on the latest on the MSU game post game. We know that, for instance, Jamon Green's folks are pressing charges in this development, and we know that it sounds like there's going to be a civil suit, and they've retained an attorney. Talk about that aspect of it a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's a video. It wasn't so much the first video that we saw in the press room that Jennifer Hammond had, and we all were hovering around her video when Blake Corum was speaking. We're looking at the video, and then those questions got thrown to those two young men, Hammond and JJ. But it's a video from outside in, and I believe it was from a recruit's parents. You know, recruits. There were a lot of recruits there. Sure. And there's a lot of parents, that go along for the ride, if you will, that are around the tunnel after a game. Recruits go in for the game and in the locker room, and so that the video with the helmet pounding down on Jamon Green's head, that you see enough of it that it's jarring and disturbing. And there's only one number 4 who plays for Michigan State. A lot of these teams have duped up numbers, right? And Jacoby Whitman appears to be that guy. And the video will show, and the investigation will continue. But it was a bad look. And then you got Ben Mathers, the director of football operations, running away from it. No. Like, you're a figure of authority, dude. I mean, those guys are on your side. They're not going to hit you.
Yeah. How about knock it off?
Yeah, just get up there and use your voice, jar them into, like, you're going to go to prison, dude. Do something like that. You're not going to get hurt. And he's running like a scared rabbit. And that, to me, was probably more aggravating than anything. I hate to say it.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. We just had 2 takes sent in to us. One that said that Michigan State should be kicked out of the Big Ten. Another one said it's a shame that this incident is overshadowing a really good win by Michigan. And Absolutely. Whereas I agree with that to an extent, I mean, hey, this is the story. You're talking about not only in college football, nationally people are talking about it. This could be resulting in players going to jail. I mean, this could be a significant impact on a team that's actually contending for national honors, because Jamon Green, Absolutely. If he's in concussion protocol, if things are up in the air now, that's a starting cornerback for you. So it is the story ongoing. We shouldn't forget about. We're going to talk about some of the things that Michigan did right in that game, and some of the struggles they had. But you can't not talk about this story at this point.
You can't. I can't get it out of my mind. I mean, and we're all come from our perspective, if you will. My longtime radio partner, TV partner, Jack Ebling, he rode down with me. You saw him, and everything. We're all getting along. Everything's kumbaya, But then we're going home in the game, we're all, I mean, I finally, it startled me. I said, I'm looking at this thing through a maize and blue lens. He's looking through it from a green and white lens. I mean, when it comes down to it, just the way we frame everything. What did Mel say? Well, Mel didn't see it. I mean, it's and then up here, like Chris Solari was up here on local radio, and now I mean he'll throw a nugget out, and I like Chris. I like all these Michigan State media guys. I know a ton of Michigan State people, a ton of administrators, a ton of the Spartan media, all good people. But I can't believe. I mean, Chris throws out, well, we just saw 15 minutes ago the narrative with Jamon Green was swinging his helmet first, and so when you put that on the radio, then that shoots out, and then they start believing it, and
especially when it's not true. Yeah. And neither one of those things being true, as we have now seen. Mel Tucker showing up, slamming a door. He seemed quite aware of what had taken place.
Well, he said, he said he couldn't get onto the field. He didn't come up the tunnel because he wanted to make sure all his players were off the field. Okay, said that in the post-game presser, whether that be post-game or on Monday's presser out here at the Berkowitz Center. But then I saw the video today, and it's a 127 video off Twitter, and it's for those 1 minute and 27 seconds. The start of the video is a helmet thing, and how did Mel from 127 get up to the door with all that crowded? He had to be near what was going on. And if he had the same herding mentality that he had on the field, make sure your kids are all off the field. Don't you want to get all your kids in the locker room? And what you perceive as, if you can hear anything, is a dysfunctional situation, a hostile situation. It doesn't make some of this stuff does not connect.
And you were a whole lot more aware of what went on than you kind of let on in the post game.
No question. No, I understand. And, you could have done what Jim Harbaugh did, and credit, Chad Shepard, Dave Abeloff of setting the parameters with us so they can't talk about this when we were trying to get it out of the student athletes, and right. Jim, and Ward for that matter. But a lot of it came out. Okay. And at least, Jim put his viewpoint out there. He saw the video. But when is Mel Tucker, who is the school that is supposedly at the center of the problem, not reaching out to even to communicate to Jim? I mean, because his school is the one that has the more blame for a person of common sense. I would say they have more to blame. There's physical assault going on and a gang mentality. Okay. And it's as on BTN, I mean, Howard Griffith called it a street fight. It was a street fight, and that's the best description I have.
Well, and LB just wrote in and gave a little more Ben Mathers commentary, said that we've had examples of a single person standing up and making a difference. Ben Mathers, not so much. He chose to run like a scared child.
He did. I would, if I was him, I would be so embarrassed right now. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I don't know how you manage that move.
A little bit of a turn from when he came out onto the field and was basically just screaming at people to get out of the way. And, Desmond Howard just led a segment on ESPN that touched on that. It juxtaposed over here. He's being the big boss. All right, everybody clear out, get away, cameras, and then the other side, let's run for it. Yeah. Jim, you talked about people seeing it through different lenses.
Yeah,
it occurs to me that Jim Harbaugh is seeing it through the only lens that matters, and that's the camera lens. Right. He has been very forthright about saying, okay, here is what the video shows, and we're getting more and more versions. And he talked about on Monday having that overall better look view, and all Jim Harbaugh did on Monday was double down on how bad this was. And and that you look at the other fan and quote unquote media reaction. I'm just the takes that say this is Jim Harbaugh's fault. He wanted this. He wants chaos.
Or this is way overblown. Or that kid got what he deserved. That kind of stuff. Jamon Green was up there. He wanted to get in there and get and see his parents before his dad went back to Texas. I mean, this is crazy, and he's done this before. And Jim qualified. Qualified. Why Jaden went up there, I don't know. I don't have the insight on why he went up there. And I did. I'm trying to be clearly on. I'm thinking of this with a clear mind because I believe Mason Blue. You know that. I mean that's been my school since I'm 8 years old, and I graduated from there, and it's near and dear to me. Okay, so I frame it that way. But so I'm wondering what his when that's a bad look when he's up skipping up there, but that's no call for being assaulted. You know what I mean? It's just it's jarring that there's about I have around me, John, as I mentioned before, a faculty neighborhood. Michigan State. I got Michigan State alumni and fans all in my life. I got my wife and daughter. One of my daughters graduated Michigan State. The wife and daughter are so upset. My daughter went to say, "I'm embarrassed I had a degree from Michigan State." I go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't go that far. Still a great university." But I mean, it's so they see it clearly. They're disturbed. Most of them are disturbed. But there's about a 30 to 40 percentile in this Spartan crew. Mike Valenti, former producer of mine, Rico Beard, current colleague, what they were spewing on that show on 97.1. My God, about that Jim Harbaugh was the center, was the core competency of this whole problem is insane. I mean, do you not look at the history? Do you not look at the Appalachian State game? The first shot over the bow was fired by Mark D'Antonio. Can we have a moment of silence? That's when it started. I mean, I just they're spewing what they want to spew, and this rivalry is in deep doo-doo right now.
It's all deflection. Jim Harbaugh was not swinging any helmets in the tunnel. Jim Harbaugh was not taking 10 Wolverines and cornering a couple of Spartans and trying to beat the crap out of them. Jim Harbaugh was no cause of this whatsoever. I mean, we can talk about logistical changes that you want to make, but that's crazy. And I'll say this: I've been covering Michigan for 32 years, and in that time, I am really proud of the fact. I mean, I'm not even proud. It's just being decent that I have never ever even considered wishing harm on another player from another school, no matter how heated the rivalry. I don't want anybody from Michigan State to get hurt.
You're talking about Jim Copperoni?
Just saying.
Yeah, that's, I mean, say it loud and clear.
I'm saying I have never wished injury on someone and then called it a missed opportunity when they, in fact, didn't get injury inflicted on them.
And in the 30 to 40 percentile, and I have a lot of friends that are on SpartanMag.com, Red Cedar message board, and it's just pouring at them. It's Com's article that once again, very similar to Valenti and Rico Beard, they make Jim Harbaugh the culprit of this whole thing. He's the problem according to them, and it's insane. And then my phone's being filled with that text messages, and it's. I tell you what, I freaking hate this rivalry. I hate it. I can't stand it. It's no fun. Ballas said it, and I met you and Chris for the first time at the O2 Big Ten Media Days when Bobby Williams told him it's a bad rivalry. And I'm sitting, and he said, "What did he say that?" Yeah, he said that. You know what, Bobby Williams, you are right. It's a bad rivalry. Terrible.
Well, that leads right into our next. Not really our next topic, but our next angle on this topic, the ongoing topic. Is this game even worth it anymore? I mean, if you were the commissioner of the Big Ten, or you were the one that could decide things, would you separate these two like you separate, a couple of brawling bar patrons? I mean, would you take Michigan State, put them over in the West, keep Michigan in the East if you were going to have divisions, or just take away the protected status of this game to not play it every year?
I've thought about that a lot. Personally, I wish they don't play, and that's because that's I'm meaningless in this thing. But what I'm saying is, right? I mean, I'm so irrelevant to the big picture. But I mean, I can't stand this game because it brings out, as Judd Heathcote once told everybody, the game eventually makes fools of us all. This rivalry makes fools of a lot of people. College educated people. So no, I personally would wish it was off the schedule. I wish you want a realignment opportunity. You got a lopsided Big Ten East. Michigan State's a pretty good team generally. Put them over to the West. And you know what? Don't have the crossover involve Michigan or Michigan State for the next 3 or 4 years. And we'll see how it goes. But because and in fairness, you're going to have a Mel Tucker, Jim Harbaugh, or leadership, Alan Haller, Ward Manuel, or the problem with the presidential leadership at Michigan State is it's rudderless right now. They got an interim going out, and actually he's made a good statement. But I mean, they have no leadership and a board of trustees at the top, which is a huge problem at Michigan State, mind you. But they're going to have to get those. You're going to have to change some culture, mentality. You're going to have to do some TV ads. You're going to have to just have to push a more positive narrative. The way I remember my first Michigan State game, when everybody was wearing suits and ties and everybody was cordial back in 1964. It's way different than nearly 60 years ago.
Two things about this rivalry that I have heard lately and I believe to be true. One is that it means more, not means more to Michigan State, but Michigan State is constantly aggravated by the fact that Michigan has an Ohio State, and Michigan State does not. That there is a rival that, in the grand scheme of things, means more to Michigan, and that's a fact of being good for this long. You could say maybe during the it's been a long time ago, but when D'Antonio came up and was doing well, all of a sudden this took on increased importance because Michigan was losing consistently to Michigan State. But in general, it's that Ohio State, that Big Ten championship going through Columbus. And the other thing is, a lot of people have said lately, this rivalry or this game is more important to Michigan State to be played than it is to Michigan. Michigan could live without it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Michigan and Michigan State, in the interstate rivalry, of getting, in-state recruits. I mean, Michigan doesn't need recruits in the state of Michigan as much as Michigan State does. I mean, Michigan, as a more of a national brand that can get players from all over. And, I think Michigan State enjoys the recruits coming to this game and things, especially when they win at Spartan Stadium. And, during like a 60 minutes of unnecessary roughness that Mark D'Antonio declared in 2011 or 2014 and all the other crap that has gone in between. So to be honest with you, for the record, Mark D'Antonio, if you're going to blame one of these coaches, blame Mark D'Antonio and end of statement. I mean, he's spewed more venom than anything. Tucker's picked up on it a little bit. But back to your point though, I worry about the basketball game, to be honest with you, because basketball can be a really almost more personal thing because the fans are right on top of the players.
Sure.
And Hunter Dickens has got a little rant going on with a Spartan fan base on Twitter. And I think that's gonna, I'm not saying that it's gonna be ugly or anything, but it's got a lot of venomous feel to it, and it's not any fun anymore. It's not good natured jabbing. It's personal, and everybody, you can't talk. I got Michigan State people that I say, okay, we're not talking, we're not talking about the game. We're not talking about Michigan. We don't talk about politics, religion, and Michigan State. Boom, boom, boom. That's how I navigate my life right now, John.
There you go.
Those three: religion, politics, and Michigan State. They're off the grid. If you want to talk to me about those three, don't call me.
There you go. Well,
If you're a
you
Michigan State person.
I know you don't always frequent the games in East Lansing, and I may join you next year. I
Oh,
don't
I
know as
wouldn't
I
go up. I wouldn't go
care
up
to
there.
go. Here's what I
No,
wonder. Here's
hell
what I
no.
wonder. What kind of show of force security team might Michigan secure to
Oh
take a
God.
team up there next year?
Oh
I mean,
God. Yeah.
if this kind of thing can happen in your own building, what about going up to East Lansing? That's just, I mean, that's crazy. Here, I'm going to make one concession on this whole thing.
Okay.
If you know when you talk about, okay, what might you tweak going forward? I don't think that the Michigan tunnel situation has to drastically change or anything like that. But if you wanted to make absolutely sure with teams that cannot act their age, even when they're 18 years old, then okay, by the time the last visitor gets into the start of the tunnel, you've got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes, and every single person has to be in that locker room, or the team behind you, which is Michigan, is coming. And it doesn't. I mean, that's on you. That's on you. But if they break that, time limit, then the Big Ten should have something to say about it, because that's clearly if there's anything going on there, and then you don't have anybody going up early. I get it that you in this situation you should be able to. Doug Karsh has talked about how for years he's seen guys go up side by side.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
but
a lot of them know
you've
each
reached
other.
the point where you almost have to get hard and fast with a couple of things to keep everybody separated.
Yeah, I mean, I would get, when Michigan State goes to Spartan Stadium, first of all, I would bring I would bring some security force off the scale. I don't care what it costs. You're spending money in other areas. You'd protect that when they pull up to the north side of Spartan Stadium. You know where they get off there, and the fans have access. Just that alone. I mean, that's an unsecured area right there. Who knows what all these lunatics out there in the world. I mean, this could get worse if this thing continues to build. And you can imagine the build up on that. But back to the tunnel management at Michigan, yeah, I would just, and I have coaches. That's part of your protocol. You got to be with your players going up there. I know that sounds regimented and Pop Warner League, but you're going to have to do. I mean, where the hell were the Michigan State coaches, other than running for the hills, the director of football operations? Other than that dude who was there, where the hell are the other guys? Where are the coaches? I mean, finally they came in, but I mean that if I was a player and I saw a coach around me, my behavior would change instantly. But I didn't see them, and so it was just a perfect storm. And but up here it was just an overblown little scuffle to about 30 or 40% of the Spartan nation up here.
Shadyville 03 is all over it. We should show up in East Lansing with the National Guard. LOL. I mean, hey, it's a thought. We're a half an hour into this podcast, and we have yet to talk about Michigan's win over Michigan State on the field. And obviously, it was a good one. I think there are pluses and minuses of having a Lou Groza award-winning kicker because nothing against Jake Moody, 5 field goals and looking great, hits a 54-yarder. But at the same time, you want to be cashing those in for touchdowns. Your thoughts on not only Moody's performance, but the fact that Michigan didn't put it in the end zone quite as often as it wanted, or it would have been a whole lot worse than 29-7.
And I always do directional things. So the going north throw, JJ to Donovan down inside the 6-yard line, 1st and goal. Michigan had the ball, and I turned to Pat Hayes, my seat man, and said, "Okay, why don't you just kick the field goal right now? Because that's where this is going." I guess I was a little too profound there. And you score 7 times, and 5 of them are field goals. And you could Jim. Maybe Jim was perceiving this. Listen, I'm going to beat this team. I don't care. Let's just win this game and get the hell out of here. But where and so he's playing the percentages on the field goals as opposed to going, maybe being more aggressive. But Michigan in the red zone, deep in the red zone, is just lousy on first down. Too many negative plays on first down, and I don't recall seeing any play action on first down because they know you're going to run. I mean, that's their mentality. You're going to run to play.
Mhm.
And I would think that I was surprised I didn't see a little play action, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just didn't remember. It doesn't pop in my mind. And
Right.
you have all the tools. You have all the tools for a good red zone offense. You have balanced attack. You got a running game. You got a heck of a tight end who is seemingly getting open. You got the best offensive line potentially in the country, and you got pretty good receivers. But these receivers were not. I mean, it seemingly we're not. They're not getting separation. In the end, I don't know. That and JJ addressed it. He says we got to fix that. So it was one of those long-term things. We got to get this long-term thing. If we're going to beat Ohio State, I'm thinking from a Michigan standpoint, we got to fix that red zone offense, or we're a distant second in the Big Ten. But beating Michigan State with 5 field goals, 2 touchdowns, you still have a 22-point win.
Okay. Hey, big update right here from Michigan State athletics. Let me
Okay.
just read it. Michigan State
Okay.
University athletics and football program are committed to the highest level of sportsmanship as we continue to gather and review electronic evidence of the altercations between Michigan State and Michigan student athletes on October 29, 2022. We are suspending student athletes Malcolm Jones, Justin White, Jacoby Winman, and Brandon Wright. The suspensions are effective immediately. We are transparently working with law enforcement and the Big Ten Conference to evaluate additional facts and evidence surrounding the events in Ann Arbor. We will continue to take appropriate action on this matter as we learn more. The student athlete suspensions will remain in place until the investigations are completed. And then there's just some good talk. Happy talk going on the end. But what we got here is, okay, there's more video and you really didn't have much choice, but credit where credit's due. They didn't just cut it off. It would have been tough because now they're getting nationally roasted for this. And there is obvious video. You mentioned Jacoby Winman, and certainly one of their best defensive players. This is
the best defensive player in my mind.
I mean,
most effective. That could help them. But I'm going to tell you something. It's Jacoby Winman said he didn't know anything about it in the post game. I mean, this is the crazy part. It's like when you're delving into something, you dig into a file, and the more you dig, the worse it gets. That's 8 players right now that are suspended for Michigan State. What's that message? What's that send out to? Well, and I don't know. If I'm surprised it took this long, but I give Michigan State credit, and you might as well suspend it because the Big Ten's going to come in and suspend them anyway. So you might as well do it because they might have done it tomorrow if you didn't do it. But that video, the glaring video from the exterior of the tunnel, just in the tunnel, is jarring. And this comes right after, like I talked about tonight, with Chris Solari trying to throw it out there that, hey, we're hearing that potentially at the last 15 minutes, Jamon Green was the one that was swinging. Swing the first helmet. His helmet's off. This is why where we're at right now.
Because people are so dug in and so committed to, maybe the team that they cover. I guarantee you, I'm not that committed. If Michigan players did this and you saw the same thing, I'm not defending that. I know, and I don't think you would either.
No, John, you are as, you're a straight shooter and to the truth of anybody I freaking know. And I'm with you in this regard. Much as I love the Maize and Blue, I went down to Big Ten Media Days and I threw a question. I questioned the schedule to Jim Harbaugh. Okay, and so we ended up having this awkward stare down on Big Ten Network, and WTKA roast me for an hour because I went against the sacred Jim Harbaugh. But I don't care because it's a legitimate question that still could come back and jar Michigan because Michigan they have to throw a perfect game potentially to get into CFP. They have to beat Ohio State. Otherwise, they could, if they had one Power 5 win, they could avoid that, but they don't. And so you and I look at it, the big picture. And I think most, the Solaris and the Charbonneaus, I think for the most part they do. But and Ebelings of the world, but when push comes to shove, that lens view is color laced with green and white, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt about it.
And Valenia and obviously Rico Beard, who is fan media. And fan media dominates media. Let's be real. I mean, I want Michigan to win. You want Michigan to win. You do. I mean, but you look through it through a clear lens.
Absolutely. And we're not trying to incite people to get a bigger audience. Right. And I'm sorry, talk radio is all about that. I'm not looking for a bigger contract because I can say some crazy things and make people go over the top. We're talking, we are straight shooting, as you mentioned, and we are committed to that. So, but that's a significant deal that the suspensions are piling up. It's not as significant as if Michigan State were going anywhere. I mentioned in my prediction for this game that this team was on its way to 5-7. That might be a little optimistic at this point.
Well, it depends. It depends how they play at Illinois.
They're not winning there.
No, I know they're not winning there, and I think the fans that were thinking about going there are not going to go to. I mean, my daughter was going to go to that game. She didn't from Chicago, Michigan State. She's not going to that game.
Yeah.
She didn't want any part of that game. Because that's the way that. And I think that's the mentality right now. If they get, I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball in Illinois. Illinois is good, and Mel Tucker said he hadn't even looked at any film, but yesterday that team is distracted. Michigan's distracted. I worry about them, to be quite honest. I think they have enough to beat Rutgers, but I mean, there's going to be some level of distraction moving forward. Rod Moore's upset. I mean, when you have your players go through that, it jars you a little bit, and it wrecks your focus a little bit. So no, I think Michigan State potentially could. They could walk through and beat Indiana. But Rutgers maybe could upset. They're not going to go to a bowl game, and they should go to a bowl game.
They will not go to Penn State and win. They lose at Illinois and at Penn State.
Penn State will roll this team. This team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about a million negatives so far.
I'm all worked up here, man.
We're gonna mix in a positive because I'm telling you, Blake Corum just continues to get it done in every way possible. My question to you is this guy the best back in the nation at this point?
Well, I think so, and I'm doing it on a durability. I mean, it's like after the game, what do you get? 29 carries, whatever the carries were. 25, 29, he's got Donovan back there, but it's like, I think he could do the Chris Perry 51 carries that he did, or Chris did against Michigan State in 2003. And not bad. Lorenzo White did that for Michigan State too, back in '87. I mean, he's that kind. I mean, we've talked about this. When you look at him, he's a man of steel. Of 5'10", or 5'10", 210 pounds, and he's like Jim Brown-esque. He's like Jim Brown was the Cleveland Browns. Every carry he got a little bit stronger. Some of those carries where they're spinning him sideways, and he's still moving forward. It's unbelievable. So I think he's a Doak Walk Award winner myself, but me, I'm wearing way too many maize and blue glasses.
Absolutely gaining steam as he goes along. You see there 33 carries against Michigan State, 28, 25, 29, 30.
Yeah.
He is ready to go and certainly has answered all those questions that we talked about. Okay, durability. Is he an every down back? Can he gain the short yardage?
Yeah.
Oh my word. Yeah. He has done all of that and more. And we've got a lot of little messages coming in on Corum for Heisman, Blake the Great, you name it. The folks love him, and I will say this quick story that Doug Karsh told me, and it just shows you a little bit about Blake Corum. When Doug's sister was diagnosed with
I read that.
cancer, yeah,
That was a heart wrencher right there.
oh,
That's towing at the heartstrings right there.
yep,
That's cool.
yep. His sister diagnosed with cancer. He
Yeah.
asked some of the players for encouraging messages. Corum delivered an absolutely fantastic one, but
Yep.
then unprompted comes back later and asks how she's doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we lost her last year, but that kid is amazing.
There's a lot of good kids on this. When Jim Harbaugh talks about how much he likes his team, I mean, it's legit. I mean, every person that we've encountered, we haven't encountered all 110 of them, but they're all good kids. The good kid, they seem to me, and I'm a pretty good judge of character. I'm old, and I've worked with a lot of young people over the years, especially still, and so it's that's good to hear. But yeah, Blake is as good as anybody. I mean, and I thought, John, last summer we were thinking about limiting Hassan Haskins is gone. I mean, on that 3rd and 4, and if you do want to run the ball, how's that going to work out? Blake Corum.
Something to remember for future summer worries. Okay, how are we going to do this? And now you have no edge rushers because you lost your top 2 guys.
Yes.
I mean, that's just, and I was one of the ones saying it, that, wow, what do they do now? Well, we found out what they do now. Let's move on to Rutgers. A little more feisty under Greg Schiano. What do you expect out of this?
Well, I watched that last game they had with Minnesota. 31-0. It was up in Minneapolis. Disappointing I mean, I like Greg Schiano, to be honest with you. Big Ten Media Days. I like what this guy had to say. I expected more. They're 4-4. They still got a shot at a bowl game. This is a Michigan issue game more than a Rutgers issue game. I mean, Rutgers doesn't match the talent that Michigan has. It's a night game, and also from a fan perspective, I know how many alums live in New York, New Jersey area, and Rutgers is coming off a loss. I think there's going to be a big amount of Michigan support with their 8-0 Wolverines up there, and Piscataway, and I have this as a not 78-0 like it was several years ago, but I think it's a legitimate, like a 35-7 workman-like game. But what I'm worried about is just the mindset of this team. Are they distracted, or is it going to galvanize the team? And how much more distraction are we going to have moving forward? Because this investigation is going to continue to be ongoing, and then there's the narrative and the social media and all the outside noise is just going to get loud.
Absolutely. And you night game, Piscataway, November. I don't know about that. I'm sorry.
You don't think Rutgers is going to bring it?
I don't know. I just I think it's goofy to be playing at night in November anyway.
I do too.
But I don't. I think Michigan is galvanized right now, and maybe even more so after what happened in that tunnel, because you're going to have guys pulling together and saying, "Hey, we're in a fight, and if we have to fight our way out of somewhere, we can do that together." We're a little rapid fire down the stretch here. Ohio State and Penn State. So I finish one of my pregame rituals before the Michigan State-Michigan game. And as I was coming off the 18th hole, I came into the clubhouse, and there is Michigan, is Penn State, Ohio State. And Penn State had just scored. They'll go up by a couple, and it looks like, oh, hey, I'm in for this last night, and then heading to Ann Arbor, 9 minutes. And then all of a sudden, poof, it just went crazy. So what do you take out of that? First of all, that Ohio State was in a battle for its life for 3+ quarters, but then it exploded so quickly, and the final score looks like a blowout.
Well, funny how 4 turnovers does that. A 4 turnover to 0 advantage for Ohio State, and I mean, they had, one particular player was incredible. Um, you know, I I watched that game and in its entirety, and right when the game ended is when I headed to Ann Arbor, and it's like I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, I think this is doable. That Michigan, my takeaway, this is doable, and
Mhm.
I look at everything from a Michigan perspective. I mean,
Sure.
I that's all I do. I mean, Jackson
As do
Smith
the
and
people listening to
yeah,
us.
yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba, will he be back? I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. Can you imagine those two together? Oh my God! And Michigan and Ohio State's got great running back play, and obviously a great quarterback. And I mean, they're loaded with talent. But I was impressed by Penn State for hanging in this game. And I think, granted, it was up at State College, and Michigan had Penn State in Ann Arbor, and and that's an element of differential. But I felt actually better. The funny thing of it is, it's like part of me wants Ohio State to be 11-0 versus 11-0 and all that jazz. What
Mhm.
a great thing that would be. But if Michigan, or I mean, if Penn State had won that game and won the rest of their games, I mean, Michigan could have gone and lost a close game to Ohio State, and with the equity of beating Penn State, they could have possibly got into the CFP. And that's what it should have stuff, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That when you look at these games, I'm always looking at what's best for Michigan. That's everything I do when I watch college football, and that had a kind of a contradictive element to me watching it. What do I want? But
Exactly.
it appears to me that it's going to be 11-0 versus 11-0, which will be great for college
And
football.
I came to the point where that's what I want to see. That's
You do.
exactly what I want. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
I have reached that point that you want to see that and have them be as high as they possibly can be when you take them on and try to get it done for the second straight year. One more thing before I let you go, and that would be something that was brought up by your longtime broadcast partner, one Jack Ebling, in the press box before that game. He threw
Okay.
something out there that had me. I hadn't even considered this,
Okay.
but he says, "Okay, so if Michigan finishes this thing," and when he said by finishes this thing, he meant keeps on winning right on through.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to consider this team better than the 1997 team," and I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute." And I came to two, as I've thought about that since then, I thought, okay, one, we're a long way from that happening. I mean, because look at the murderers row Michigan would have to do to do that. Ohio
Hmm.
State, maybe Alabama, maybe Georgia, as a finishing trio. But I thought, well, I don't think this defense is as a '97 defense. The offense could make the argument as being better than '97, but it just got me thinking about that. And as we close this thing out, what are your thoughts about the potential for Michigan 2022 to be a '97 type of team?
So if you hang out with Jack Evan, you're going to get a hypothetical within about
Uh
3 or 4 minutes. That's just the
huh.
way that's the way it goes with Jack. And so, but to be honest with you, if Michigan runs the table and wins the national championship, this is a no-brainer to me. It's the
Yeah.
2022 team. And when you look back at that 97 team, they got a lot of credit. They got a lot of equity build up on the preseason record of Colorado, because when they played them at the time, they were ranked, but then Colorado didn't end up that good. And even when you look at Ohio State, they beat Ohio State and they beat Penn State, and then Penn State got rolled the next week to Michigan State, and Ohio State got blown out in their bowl game. So I mean, I think, and who knows what opponents will do in this schedule, but I think if Michigan runs the table and at playoff wins, that team in '97 struggled to beat Ball State. No, not no. That one didn't. No, that was a 2016. I'm trying to think. They had some. I'm trying to think of what struggles they had. I was thinking of '06. Let's strike that. But I mean, they had a couple struggles. I don't know,
Well, they
but
certainly had to rally to beat Notre Dame and
yeah,
Iowa.
yeah. In
They
Iowa
were
and then
backs against the
Wisconsin
wall.
and the Wisconsin game in Madison, before Ohio State game, it had some element of struggle there a little bit, and Wisconsin was not all that good that year. But hey, that was a great team. And, Glenn Steele and all you cats, I love you. But if you're saying this team's going to go at 14-0 or whatever it takes, 14-0, it's this team. This
Yeah,
team.
I would agree but it's just a function of the way it is right now.
Well, that's true.
You're going to close out with 3 wins. You would close out with 3 wins over potentially top 5 teams.
Yeah.
And if you do that, yeah, you deserve everything you get. So, Tom Crawford, always great to have you on. It's a little bit weird this week, a little bit tense,
Yeah,
where you make your domicile, but I wouldn't have it any other way than talking to you in this situation, because you're someone that has the sort of presence of mind that you can certainly be friendly and friends with the good folks of East Lansing, and there are plenty of good folks, despite what we may want to try to say. But at the same time, you call a spade a spade. You can look at this thing and say, hey, there are people that are definitely to blame, and there are media members that are off their rocker to some degree. And, it's just, you're not locked into it's all one way.
No, I'm not. And I might have, even on this podcast, when this shares out, there might be some upset Michigan State people that I know. I think there might be a couple of them. But I don't, if you look at me less, I'm just telling you the truth. Those dudes give their viewpoint. I'm giving mine. And, before the game, I'm seeing George Blaha. I'm seeing Jason Strayhorn, Matt Larson, all these Michigan State guys, Peter Clay, the voice of Michigan, the PA announcer, all these Michigan State guys that I know, and all the media, Sharbs and Chris and Audrey Dahlgren, and it's all kumbaya, right? But I'm going to hold them accountable too for what they say, and they can hold me accountable for what I say. But it sounds like to me, as Matthew Hutchinson, our producer, brought out some more suspensions for Michigan State. Film don't lie, as they say in football, right? Film don't lie.
You go. I'll give you a week to think about this one. Okay. Next week, I want to know the most, to that point when we reach next week, the most forthright Michigan State journalist or Michigan State personnel that in admitting that, hey, that's a good one. We were just 100% wrong here, and we will hold that individual up for credit where credit's due.
Yeah. We'll make him king for the day on the Michigan podcast. How's that for integrity?
There you go. Tom Crawford, great to have you with us. We'll do it again next week, and thanks much.
Always a pleasure. Always an honor, John. Until next time.